Let's start with a feeling I'm sure you know well. It's that quiet frustration after a losing day. You're just sitting there, staring at the screen, and asking yourself, what just happened? And this question, man, it can feel like such a heavy weight. You've done the work, you've backtested it, you believe in your system, but the results just aren't there. And that right there is probably one of the most painful parts of this whole journey.
Well, the answer to that question, it usually comes down to a really big misunderstanding. It's this story that we see everywhere, especially on social media, and it's holding so many of us back.
We're all fed this idea that somewhere out there, the Holy Grail exists. A perfect system that almost never loses. Some secret indicator that's going to finally unlock the whole thing for us. And so we just keep searching and searching.
But here's the quiet truth. And yeah, it can be a little uncomfortable. The problem usually isn't the strategy. It's not something out there. The real game, it's happening right inside of us. So, let's be really honest with ourselves for a minute. Why does a strategy that looks so good on paper, one that's mathematically sound, still lead to a shrinking account? What's actually going on?
The real reasons, they're almost always behavioral. We overtrade to try and make back a loss. We risk way too much after a nice win because we feel invincible. We just throw our rules out the window and fear or greed shows up. Or we jump to a whole new system the second the old one has a couple of losses. See, it's not the strategy that fails. It's our own ability to just execute it day in and day out that breaks down.
Just look at the difference here. The gap between an amateur and a professional, it's not about being smarter. It's all about how they think and how they behave when things get tough. A pro doesn't take a loss personally. They just see it for what it is, a totally normal statistical outcome. They actually expect these difficult periods. And this right here is the whole thing. You can be the most brilliant analyst on the planet, but if you don't have discipline, the market is going to find a way to take your money. This one idea is what separates the people who survive in this game long-term from those who don't. Okay, so how do we actually build that discipline? Well, it starts by changing our entire view of what we're even doing here. We have to stop thinking of trading as a prediction game. A trading system isn't some crystal ball. It's just a small statistical edge. And that edge can only work if we apply it over and over and over again across a ton of trades. We're not trying to predict what's going to happen next. We're just executing our edge. That's it. I mean, think about it like you're flipping a coin. You know it's 50-50, but could you get heads 6 times in a row? Absolutely. It might feel weird, but it's statistically completely normal. It's the exact same thing in trading. A string of losses doesn't mean your strategy is broken. It's just an inevitable, totally expected part of the whole process. And this little mental shift, it changes everything. When you can see a loss not as some personal failure, but just as a simple business expense, like rent for a shop owner, that emotional sting just starts to fade away. It's just the cost of playing the game. So if losses are just an expense, then what is our actual job? This new perspective gives us a much calmer, much clearer job description, and it completely changes what we should be focusing on every single day. Now, take a good look at this list. Notice what isn't on there. Making money, it's not the job. Making money is the result. It's the byproduct of doing this other stuff, controlling your risk, following your rules, exceptionally well over a long period of time. There's this piece of ancient wisdom, and honestly, it's the perfect mindset for a modern trader. It's all about focusing completely on the action you're taking, not on the results of that action.
So what does that really mean for us in practice? It means our entire focus shifts away from the P&L, which we have zero control over, and onto our actions, our entries, our exits, our risk management, the things we actually can control.
Okay, so we can boil everything we've talked about down into a single, really calming idea. A sort of mantra you can repeat to yourself when the pressure starts to build. This right here, this one belief, if you can truly let it sink in, this is what separates the professionals from the gamblers. My only job today is to execute my plan perfectly. That's it. The final outcome is not my responsibility. That belongs to the market. So as we wrap up, I just want to leave you with this question to reflect on. Just for a moment, forget about the profits. What is one single rule in your plan that you can commit to following perfectly tomorrow, whether the trade wins or loses? Starting there, with that one small act of discipline, can be the very first step toward a much calmer, more consistent journey.